what's the difference between a 403b and a 457. So there's really three distinct differences between them, and that has to do with taxes, access, and investments. So from a tax standpoint, 457 plans do not have a 10% penalty for collecting early. There is no early age. As long as you separate service, you can touch your money, and there is no 10% penalty for touching it at any time. The 403Bs, you can actually access it as early as age 55 with no 10% penalty. As far as taxes goes, if they're both pre-tax investments, they're going to be taxed exactly the same. Now, before separating service, as far as access goes, 403Bs can be accessed through hardship withdrawals and loans. Whereas a 457 plan, you can't access any type of loan. They do have hardship withdrawals available. There's a set parameters by the IRS that you can access the money. It has to be used for one of those particular purposes. Loans give you the ability to take money out for any particular reason, and you don't need anyone's authorization or approval of what you're using the money for. It's your money. You can loan it out anytime you want to. So that does not exist in 457 plans, but it does exist in most 403B plans. Outside of that, remember that 457s can only be accessed upon separation of service. So if you are 60, 65, 70, and still employed, you can't touch the money. 403Bs, as soon as you are over the age of 59 and a half, even if you're still employed earning a paycheck, you can now start using that money. From a tax standpoint, they're going to be taxed exactly the same. Whatever you draw from, it's going to be taxed as income. You'll pay taxes based on whatever rate you are in. Again, the only tax difference between the two is going to be when it comes to that 10% penalty. If you access it before the age of 55 and 403Bs, you have a 10% penalty. 437s, there is no penalty there. Now, the third, as far as investments goes, this is highly dependent on who the provider is. If you're with Washington State's Deferred Comp, they only have 7 different investment options for you to choose from, plus 10 different targeted funds. So 17 total. If you have a private 457 plans, it depends on who that provider is. There are some that give 10,000 and there's some that give 10 options. Same thing on the 403B side. Those are always going to be private offers. The state doesn't have their 403B plan, but again, there are some insurance companies or annuity providers that only have 10, 15 options, and they might even be high fee ones. And there's other ones that will give you 10,000 different options to choose from, anywhere from mutual funds, ETFs, whatever you want inside of there. And the same goes for fees. The state always likes to say that the deferred compensation plan is so much cheaper than 403Bs. If they're comparing it to an annuity-based 403B plan, of course it is, because they're not the same type of account. If one's a liquid account, one's an annuity shell, the annuity shell is always going to have higher fees than it. But if you were to compare the deferred comp to like a Vanguard 403B, a Fidelity 403B, or an Aspire 403B, and you chose the lower cost options, you actually will have the lower fees than what the deferred compensation plan has inside of them. They actually have higher management fees than a similar funds that you could get straight through a different provider on the private sector. So fees are not the main difference between 457 and 403Bs, although typically speaking, the 457 will have cheaper fees than the average 403B just because most of them are still annuity contracts.